Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Welcome home.
Soar into tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey, it's Amy from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey Clubbers, it's Scott from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, it's Kathleen from DVC Clubhouse.
Welcome aboard. It's Phil from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Debrief podcast brought to you by DVC Clubhouse. This is Amy, joined as always by Kathleen, Scott, and Phil. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hi guys.
Welcome aboard, guys.
And we're also joined by Parker, who is wearing a t-shirt that says, "I love my daddy."
She's the cutest thing ever.
She's trying to push me off the chair.
My bubbles.
Like,
She's literally pushing you off the chair.
I guess she wants to take over.
Maybe you should put the headphones on her so she can hear the conversation.
Special guest.
Do you know that I actually know the sound signature of Parker snoring and Parker barking when I'm editing the podcast? I can go through the entire timeline and see the sound signature and know that that is Parker.
Does not
That's how
surprise
frequently
me.
she makes an appearance.
That does not surprise me at all.
Fortunately, this is not smell-o-vision, because based on what Kathleen and Scott were experiencing before, we were lucky to not be in the room with Parker.
Well, let's
Yes.
just call it what it is. Scott actually said, "Oh dear God, I can taste that one."
That was bad. That was terrible. That was so bad. But she's the sweetest
Parker.
thing ever.
She is.
But she loves
is.
her daddy.
She does.
She does. My bubbles.
So it's been a while since we have done anything resort focused. So I had a suggestion for this week's episode, and we're going to see how it flies. It's not a deep dive, because we do actually need to start those again pretty soon, because we haven't done a deep dive in a while. But I wanted to focus just a little bit on Saratoga Springs, because in a previous episode, we all agreed that, wow, Amy just turned on a very bright light. We all agreed.
I didn't do anything. That just happened.
Wow.
I don't know what's going. There's some sort
There's
of spirit just
a
passed by
meteor
my
or
face.
something headed towards your house. Be very careful.
She had a thought.
Get that light bulb turned on. Wow. So we had mentioned in a previous episode and all agreed that when we are staying at Saratoga, we all love Saratoga. We love everything Saratoga has to offer and the beauty of Saratoga and the rooms and the access. But for some reason, when we're booking trips, we just, and I think this is a general thing based on the availability, we just tend to scan by Saratoga, and it's kind of like the backup resort for a lot of people. And I wonder why that is, because it always gets rave reviews and we all love it when we're there, and then we leave and it somehow becomes like never a bride, always a bridesmaid.
I think you're all crazy. I just think you're all crazy.
Well, we know we're crazy, but that has nothing to do with this discussion, buddy.
Mm-hmm. You're crazy talking about Saratoga like that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
You agreed in a previous episode. It's not like you're without fault here.
I don't think I agreed. Did I? I don't think I agreed. I think I agreed what you just said to Old Key West and Riviera being that way. But I don't think I ever said that about Saratoga.
I would actually rank them lower on my list like you. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about Saratoga. And I honestly think that it is a supply and demand kind of issue. Like people, when you go to Disney, it's amazing to me the number of people you see that will get in a line having no idea what the line is for just because there's a line. And I think that the fact that Saratoga has so many rooms, thereby granting it better availability than other resorts, somehow in some people's mind translates to not as desirable. And I think that plays into it. I was going to say that later. But what else is there that just kind of makes people pass by Saratoga?
It's boring. It's
What?
just
Oh, I'm sorry. It's your turn. Go ahead.
it's just don't get me wrong, I'll stay there, and I have stayed there. It's perfectly fine, but it's just boring. Like
Compared to what?
there's like, okay, for instance, when you're at the boardwalk, you could be out on your balcony if you have a boardwalk view and, watch the nightlife, watch people go by. I mean, there's things to do. But at Saratoga, when we have stayed there, I don't think we've done anything there other than walk to Disney Springs. Like, I don't really think that there's anything to do there.
But as devil's advocate, I would say that's exactly what there is to do. There is the entirety of Disney Springs. And again, I'm not a huge Saratoga proponent, but I feel like every point you make, I can come up with a counterpoint for Saratoga. So it makes me wonder why I'm not a Saratoga proponent.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if it's, if I need a room and that's the only thing available, I mean, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to complain, but I don't know. But it's not last on my list though. So
mine either, but okay. So you just said that there's nothing to do there. So on the boardwalk, if you have a boardwalk view room, you can sit in your room and watch other people below you doing something.
Well, you can sit on the boardwalk. You can go get some ice cream or a snack on the boardwalk.
I would argue that the furthest rooms away from the boardwalk at boardwalk are further away from the actual boardwalk and what's happening there than the rooms at Saratoga at some parts of the resort are from the bridge to Disney Springs.
Yeah, it's just more lively over there. I just feel like Saratoga's just... And I think that's probably why people like it, because it is more quiet and a little bit more, laid back. But it's just, I don't know. You know what? You're shaking your head over there, but the last time we stayed at Saratoga, he said the same thing. He's like, it's just boring here. There's nothing to do.
No, I listen, I didn't like where we stayed at, and I think that has a lot to do with whether you're really going to enjoy your stay at Saratoga or not enjoy your stay.
It's like staying with the alligators out at Turtle Pond at Old Key West. Like, could you get any further into the boonies there?
I don't even know the name of the place we were
Carousel.
at. The Carousel. And I think that is what Phil just said. That's probably the furthest away from, the entertainment that you can get. But no, go ahead. I'm just over here.
That's just my opinion. I just think it's boring. That's all. I don't hate Saratoga. I really don't. When we're not there, like if we're at the boathouse or at Disney Springs, I always look over to Saratoga. I'm like, we should go to Saratoga more. Like, why don't we go there more? But then when I'm there, I'm like, there's nothing to do.
Can I just interject for a minute? So what resorts, you said it's not the lowest for you. It's not your resort of last resorts.
Mm-mm.
So can I ask which resorts actually rank lower than Saratoga?
Riviera.
Okay, that's it?
That's for me, yeah. That's just my opinion.
So Old Key West ranks above Saratoga?
Yes.
Can I ask why? Because I want to know what is...
I'm curious about this too.
I want to know what's more exciting about Old Key West than Saratoga.
I like the vibe over at Old Key West better. I like the music when you're walking
The vibe
outside.
is a retirement home.
Okay, and I get that. I knew you were going to... No, I know why you're laughing. Because I get that. But I just like I don't know. I feel more on vacation at Old Key West than I do at Saratoga.
Amy is remarkably quiet.
Well, I have a lot to say. So I'm letting everyone
That doesn't
talk
make it any different than any other episode, so chime in.
I'm waiting for the light.
I don't know what that was, so but I think that for me, the reason why, Old Key West definitely ranks higher for me than Saratoga. And for me, it's pretty much like the way the grounds look and the way they're laid out. I think that the buildings at Saratoga Springs they really look like they could be like a retirement community. Like it's like a 55 plus condo development with grounds that just have grass and fountains. None of the views really offer anything other than just these like man-made lakes with fountains in the middle of them.
What views do you have at Old Key West though? At
Old Key West, I think it's prettier. I think that if you have a a balcony overlooking the golf course. It's really pretty. I think that the rooms that are overlooking the Sassagoula, like they have like this very quaint feel, kind of more reminiscent of how it feels down at like Riverside or Port Orleans, whereas Saratoga, like my issue with Saratoga too is like even if even if you're in Congress Park, your view isn't of Saratoga of Disney Springs. Those rooms face like kind of like catty corner, and you might have like a vague like a slight view if you turn your head a little bit, but you're kind of always like looking at a courtyard or a path or a walkway or like man-made lake with a fountain that feels very much like any other. If you drive around like Central Florida, any of these developments that have like these condos that have these, like almost like a mall, like with these like man-made lakes with these fountains in the middle of it. And so the grounds themselves just don't feel different enough from what you would see in the surrounding area. And I think that, that main area where you check in, like it just feels like a missed opportunity over there. Like it could be a more lively neighborhood type feel over there, but the lounge stinks. The restaurant is only open for dinner, and by all accounts, it's not that great. And I know that people, don't think Olivia's is anything to rave about, but I think the food at Olivia's is pretty good. I've never had a bad meal there, and it's open all day. So you arrive at the resort and your room's not ready and you want to be able to sit down and have a table service meal without having to go to Disney Springs, you could go to Olivia's. There's more character. There's more of a well thought out story to Old Key West than there is to Saratoga Springs. And I mean, we know why that is. It's because Saratoga Springs was the Disney Institute, and then they tried to like shoehorn a theme in there. It wasn't a theme that was conceived of from a blank slate. It was a theme that was conceived of to fit into existing structures to build something that would make sense around those buildings. And I think that and now it is similar to an Old Key West, whereas like some of the buildings feel very far. And like the argument that some of the rooms at the boardwalk are pretty far, at least you're indoors. You're able to walk in an air conditioned hallway where if it's raining, you're not getting rained on. If it's super hot, you have the relief of air conditioning. And from a theming standpoint, I just think Saratoga Springs, it doesn't really bring anything to life for me. I don't go there and feel like, oh my gosh, this feels like exactly like Saratoga Springs. And maybe it does, but that's not a place like that I think is a place that I'm like looking to be transported to. And I think overall, like the quick service is, while like the food there that I've had there is good, the fact that it's kind of like small and crammed up against this like small merchandise shop, and the seating is like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel quaint or cozy or that it has much character. I think there's so much there that lacks character and feels very generic. And when I'm at Disney, I want to be immersed in a theme. Now, that being said, I see value in staying there because of the proximity to Disney Springs. And I do think that the pools there are great. So if you're there and you're taking advantage of the pools, then, you'll have a really good time. But when I'm looking for a resort that is just going to give me like that Disney feel, I don't get that from Saratoga Springs as much as I get it from the other resorts. And I agree with Kathleen that Riviera is lower than me. Like if I had a choice between booking Saratoga and booking Riviera, I would book Saratoga every day because of the points chart. And so, and I do love that the points chart is so attractive. I mean, I was very low on points. I had wanted to book 2 nights in May for the Clubhouse meetup, and Saratoga was, 27 points where for 2 nights, where some places were 24 points for 1 night. So, while I am there, I can enjoy it because I'm at Disney World. And, when I'm at Disney, even if it's my last choice of a resort, I'm always going to have a good time. But I think that Saratoga, unless you have the nostalgia of Saratoga being your home resort and that being where like your kids, the memories you have with your kids, and that you have that personal emotional connection to it, I don't think that Saratoga does a lot to serve up an emotional experience the way some of the other resorts do.
I'll give you that, but I think I would say the emotional experience that some resorts serve up is a negative emotion. And like you, I mean, I'd also put Riviera below Saratoga, and not just for the points reason. We've gotten into it. We don't need to do it again. What I find surprising is and Kathleen would rank Old Key West above Saratoga on the list, because I think at least from Saratoga, I can look across to Disney Springs, I can see some action. And I think that the grounds, you're right, while uninspiring and uninspired, and remember that this goes back not just to the Disney Institute, this goes back to all of the condos that were on site even before the Disney Institute. So they're shoehorning within something that was shoehorned inside of there. I don't see any benefits of Old Key West over Saratoga other than perhaps the point chart and room size if it's me spending my points.
I think that Old Key West was designed to look like Key West, and I think that they did a good job. I think the architecture of those buildings are reflective of what Key West looks like. I'm a big fan of the pastels. I'm a fan of the decorative railings on the balconies. I'm a big fan of the Roman shades. I mean, where else can you get an upper body workout while you're trying to prepare the room at night? But to me, there's a quaint, like cozy feeling. And there's also a liveliness to Old Key West that does not exist at Saratoga Springs. I mean, yes, Gurgling Suitcase is small, but there is a lively feeling over in that area where people are getting on and off the boat. You've got the pool right there. You've got the Gurgling Suitcase. You have the community center over there. Whereas because Saratoga Springs, like things are kind of like the boat is kind of off the beaten path. And while the pool is close to the main building, it's set down enough that it doesn't feel like a part of it. There's something about the hospitality house at Old Key West that really does kind of feel like a little neighborhood. And Saratoga Springs to me just feels like, I don't know, it's just lacking a quaintness. It's lacking character. And maybe if they opened the spa, I don't know. I think that's something too. It's like the spa has been empty. Then you have that building that looks like what should be some sort of like theater or something across from the main lobby that is an unutilized space or utilized for something that is not meant for the guests who are staying there. It just feels like there's a bunch of, and even where like the DVC preview center is, there's that big empty courtyard that just feels like sparse and lacking any sort of purpose. So I feel like Saratoga Springs has a lot of that type of like dead space that just doesn't make it feel as warm or filled with character as Old Key West does.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. I mean, there's definitely some dead space, especially in that main area. I mean, that entire building that houses the gym and the spa. It, I mean, no, the gym is amazing. I would argue it's the best gym on property, but I'm a gym rat, so that most people are not going to see the inside of that. But that is an enormous building that's just sitting there with nothing to do. I do like how the pool is set aside there, where it's still accessible from the main side, but not right in your face, but you can still access everything. Everyone keeps talking about Olivia's, and I would say that to me, one of the biggest attractions of Old Key West is the awful quick serve. It is absolutely terrible. And I would argue that Saratoga's quick serve is actually one of the best quick serves on property. So I think that actually speaks well for it. And the distance is no different than being out at the outer reaches of Old Key West versus the outer reaches of Saratoga. So I actually think Saratoga has the edge on Old Key West for that. And I think Old Key West is, you're right, themed correctly. But I almost feel like that theme is getting a little long in the tooth. Like it's just, it's a 90s version of what Old Key West should be.
I don't know. I feel like Old Key West, it kind of harkens back earlier than the 90s. I think that they created something in the 90s that they felt like was kind of like a timeless Key West vibe. I think Saratoga Springs looks like condos and, early 2000s condos. So like in terms of it feeling dated. And I mean, while people really like the refurbished rooms, even those, like, they don't lend to any sort of theming at all. So, but I mean, that is kind of true of a lot of the refurbs where they kind of just feel a little
Ain't that the
lackluster.
truth?
I mean, not the refurbs at Kidani. They look great and they did a great job at Boulder Ridge, but Saratoga Springs and Boardwalk like are kind of like almost indistinguishable from each other in terms of the kind of gray palette, the artwork. But
Yeah, I don't find myself disagreeing a ton with everything you guys are saying, and I've never found myself to be someone that's cheering for Saratoga. I just feel like it's the underdog that doesn't get the look that it probably should, I guess is my argument. And then once you guys made it a Saratoga versus Old Key West argument, I was taking the gloves off and all in.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like the original question was what makes you skip by it when you're looking to stay somewhere, but what makes you love it when you're there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to hear.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear from everybody. I mean, what makes you love it when you're there? Because I've had experiences. The last experience, I wasn't totally in love with our stay. We ate at the restaurant. I wasn't in love with that. But I've had experiences there where we've stayed there and I've walked away and I've said the same. I've said, why don't we get points here? And I think it just has a lot of really good, it's the feels, but it has a lot of good features about it. The pools, there's two pools there that I think are both really, really good. They have the main pool, they have the pool over at the paddock. I think that they have some of the best merchandise, DVC merchandise on property. I like the quick serve that they do there. I think it's some of the best quick service food I've ever had. I like the rooms. I like the refurb. I think it's functional. I don't mind the theming in there. I think it actually works. I love the treehouse villas. I think that's a unique experience that you can't get anywhere else. I think they're dirt cheap to be able to sleep 9 people in a treehouse villa. I like the feel of the resort. We were there one time. We pretty much stayed at the resort the whole entire time. We walked the grounds. It was beautiful. Everything about it was beautiful. We went to the community hall. We did things in the community hall that I don't think we would have done anywhere else. That kind of reminds me of like a different experience like you would get at Fort Wilderness, where you just kind of want to stay at the resort and do the things that the resort has to offer. And I think that's what made me bump it up my list. Love it to the point where I said it was worthy of buying points there, because it was an underdog for me. Like I never realized until we had that experience there, and all of the things that you guys said about, the knock on the restaurant and, the bus loop and things like that. Like I totally get stuff like that, but I just felt like there was a little bit of a difference between a Saratoga and, for me, an Old Key West. Like there was a big difference between those two resorts for me.
I feel like it bears mentioning that when Saratoga was first built, the paddock pool did not exist. They added the paddock pool. And so for many of us who were DVC members back when Saratoga opened, when you stayed in a standard room, if you got put in either the paddock or the carousel, you felt like you were in the far reaches of the resort with a very, very boring pool. It was a square pool that had nothing. It was just literally a square that had zero theming, no snack bar. And it just felt, it added to the feeling of being at like a condo. And again, like, I became a DVC member in 2002. And so Saratoga Springs opened shortly thereafter. And for a while, we would stay there when we were low on points and, we were there with the kids. And it just felt like, especially being a family who had kids that were still stroller aged, it felt like a park that was, I'm sorry, it felt like a resort that just felt very boring for the kids. That felt like dealing with a double stroller on the buses when you were over at the carousel or the paddock was, it just felt like you were, this bus loop was torture. And even though and the food has vastly improved at the quick service, it is much better now than it used to be. But even though the food is good, the general eating area just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel very Disney to me. And I think that part of I've actually relearned, I've learned to love Saratoga in recent years since they've added the paddock pool, which was a huge improvement for that section of the resort. But I think that I had a bias against it because when I went there when my kids were little and we would stay in the paddock or the carousel, it felt like it was terrible trying to, walking over with little kids to the main building to get a snack. It did feel like you were so far and it was just a boring kind of not much to do resort. They've definitely addressed, but that being said, there was a spa there and I did take advantage of the spa when I would stay there. But I do think that they have, by adding the paddock pool, they've definitely improved that section of the resort vastly. But I do think that Saratoga kind of also suffers from people who stayed there back before they made those changes, where Saratoga definitely felt like the resort of last resorts because because when it was built, Disney Springs was not what it is now. It was still Pleasure Island in downtown Disney, and Pleasure Island was closed, during the day. And so you had a couple of places to go at downtown Disney, but it was not the way Disney Springs is now. So Disney Springs being what it is has actually given Saratoga Springs a glow up, because before when it was still downtown Disney and Pleasure Island, that was not a draw to say oh, well, I'm staying in walking distance to downtown Disney, because there wasn't really much to do at downtown Disney except at night. And if you have little kids, you weren't going to Pleasure Island with little kids. So I think that Saratoga has moved its way up for many people, but I think that there are some people who still have that bias against it because they remember back in those days. And maybe some people haven't given it another chance, or just automatically, when people decide they don't like something, it's hard for them to change it's hard to change people's minds once they've decided they don't like something.
Yeah, I don't mind the lack of, people, the knock into the restaurant. I don't really care about that, because I feel like with Disney Springs being so close, I feel like that kind of makes up for it. And just the different sections, I feel like each section of that resort has a benefit, whether it's you're close to the main building, whether it's Congress Park and you're close to Disney Springs, or even if you're in the grandstand and you're close, if people value golfing and that's how they want to spend their vacation, I feel like there's just a benefit of, each section of that place. But I guess everything that I could say that is negative about it, there's something that is there that it kind of cancels it out for me. And I really don't care about the negative, whether it be the lounge or the restaurants, because I can go to Disney Springs. The bus loop itself, I feel like that's kind of canceled out just because I have a benefit of walking over to Disney Springs. But I don't know. I feel like it's in my top 5. I really do feel that way. But I don't think it's definitely, it would not be in my top 3, but it's in my top 5.
Really in your top 5?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
I also think that Saratoga Springs has a very strong appeal to people, to adults that are traveling without kids.
I was just going to make this exact same point.
Yeah, I think that if you have younger kids, they don't want to go to Disney Springs for lunch. They don't want to walk over to Disney Springs for dinner. They want, that's not as much of an appeal as it is for somebody who, like me, who's thrilled to be able to go to Wine Bar George for dinner and then grab a drink at Jock Lindsay's. That's torture for kids. So I think that there's a definite demographic at play here, that there are people who are just not going to want to stay at Saratoga Springs because if they have strollers and dealing with, little kids, and like Disney Springs not really being that appealing to them, then that's why.
Yeah, I think it definitely doesn't make my top five. I mean, I could just think off the top of my head. Poly, Grand Floridian, Wilderness Lodge has two. Even if we count Wilderness Lodge as one, you've still got Boardwalk, you've still got Beach Club. I don't think it gets into my top five for sure. But a couple of points I was going to make, and Amy just touched on it, is my stays there are predicated upon number one, Treehouse Villas, which is its own unique experience, which is awesome. And you've got a boat right from the villas that goes down to Disney Springs. That's kind of a cool ride. Or staying at Congress Park, which for me, if I'm going to stay at Saratoga Springs, it needs to be one of those two. I don't want to be in the Springs. I don't want to be in Paddock. I certainly don't want to be over in Grandstand. So I am judging all of my stays based on the location within the resort that we stayed at. I think that can make or break your stay, as Scott said. Number two, if I'm traveling with the kids, there's nothing very exciting for them there. If we're staying in Congress Park, we really want to get back over to the main pool, which is not so easy. It's kind of halfway across the Saratoga property. They don't want to go to Disney Springs so much. And when you've got little kids, stroller or not, and I've done it with strollers, now we're not doing it with strollers, I hate bus loops. I hate bus loops when I'm traveling with the kids. It just makes the trip to the parks and back from the parks that much more painful, that much longer. On your way to the park, they're excited, they want to get there, and you've got to loop around property and start picking people up, or you've got to, if you're at the end of the loop, maybe there's room, maybe there's not. Coming back, you've got to wait for it to loop around property with tired kids to get them back over to their outside facing rooms after a walk. Those are problematic. So I think a lot of my love for Saratoga comes from where we stayed at Saratoga and the fact that it was just Emily and I at Saratoga. And we really liked leaving at 8 o'clock at night and wandering into Disney Springs where she could get a drink and we could do small plates and all of that other fun stuff. Where if I had kids and I was staying at Saratoga, it would cost me far too much money and far too much frustration to drag them through Disney Springs every night where they wanted to buy everything at the Lego store and stop for ice cream and not actually want to just wander and do the kind of traveling that we do. So I think those are really important distinctions to make.
And if I'm going to stay at a resort that is a bus to every park, I'm probably going to pick Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I'm going to pick Jumbo because I feel like it's a more exciting resort. There's much more to do. The food is phenomenal, and while yes, Saratoga Springs is right by Disney Springs, staying at Jumbo, you've got 3 restaurants right there between the Mara, Boma, and Jico. Plus you have the Victoria Falls Lounge, you have the Cape Town Wine Bar, and then you can walk over to Sanaa. And there's activities, there's interesting theming, the cast members, the cultural ambassadors. I'm thinking, where is Saratoga near my top 5? I mean, I'm going like Beach Club, Boardwalk, the Wilderness Lodge resorts. I'll count them as one. Then all 3 monorail resorts, then Animal Kingdom Lodge, then Old Key West, then Saratoga, then Riviera.
This might irritate Scott, but depending on the stay, if I'm staying with the kids, Animal Kingdom's probably going to rank higher for the kids. But if it's just Emily and I, Saratoga ranks higher than Animal Kingdom does for me.
Wow.
You just showed me your list.
It was funny because you guys started to rattle off your top 5, and I had already, as soon as I said what I said, I had already written it down, and I set my phone off to the side because I just wanted to see what you guys were going to say, because I knew at some point everybody was going to say their top 5. For me, it's no surprise. Grand Floridian, Animal Kingdom, Bay Lake Tower at number 3, Poly at number 4, and Saratoga at number 5 for me. And I'm sorry that I left out every single Crescent Lake resort.
It's interesting to me that Boardwalk has fallen that far in your estimation after being such a big Boardwalk fan.
It's very sad because that was our original, and it's just not even checking any of my boxes
Well,
anymore.
pretty soon it's going to be Lakeshore Lodge.
I forgot.
You know what's interesting is on that trip that I went on for the 2 nights in earlier this month to go to Festival of the Holidays and Jollywood, I brought my cousin with me, and we did a split stay. We did the first night at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and we did the second night at Boardwalk. And when we walked into Animal Kingdom Lodge, like, she didn't even really react to the tree. Like, she just walked in and she was like happy to be there. And then the next day when we checked into Boardwalk, she was just like, oh, I love it here. And like when we were out on the boardwalk, she was like, this feels like Disney to me. She was like, Animal Kingdom Lodge is nice. She's like, but it just doesn't feel like Disney to me. And I think that, I think that it's also, now granted, like her parents were DVC members. So she's stayed at a bunch of the resorts. So it's not like it was her first time, but it was just interesting to see somebody who was like so far removed from it. She hasn't been to Disney in many years, that her reaction was so strongly towards Boardwalk. And she didn't, and like I pointed out to her like the things that I was like, oh well, Jelly Rolls isn't here and Big River Grill, like I was pointing out, and she's like, I don't care. She's like, she's like, it's so pretty here, I love it, and it was fun to be able to see. I just love going to Disney with people who it's either their first time or haven't been there for a long time, because being able to experience it through other people's eyes just gives you an appreciation for it. And I said it in a couple of episodes ago where I think like when you become so familiar with something, it's so easy to be critical of it. And I think that because you love the boardwalk so much and feel so disappointed by the fact that things have closed and that they haven't reopened things, it's so easy to feel like jaded or annoyed or disappointed. But when you can view it a little bit more, I guess it's not objectively because it's subjective when it's through other people's eyes, but to be able to see how people are viewing it and the things that they love about it. Like, I loved being at Boardwalk so much for that one night that we were there, being able to walk, we dropped off our bags after we headed over from Animal Kingdom Lodge. We walked into Epcot. We got tired of being at Epcot. I kind of like, I've grown to appreciate Cake Bake Shop for what it is. Like, I don't need to ever eat a meal there, but a great place to go and grab a cocktail. I actually think that they have some of the best cocktails on property. And then be able to we went to Jollywood, be able to take the boat over to Jollywood and, be there so quickly. Like, I was like, God, I love it here. Like, it was just so great to be, but again, like, I'm a Crescent Lake girl. Like, when I'm at Crescent Lake, like, I just feel like, God, it's so awesome over here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Amy, if your background gets any darker, you're going to remind me of Madame Leota from The Haunted Mansion.
Yes, it has gotten dark here. I'm sitting next to an open window and my lights were off, and it was sunny when we started, and now it's dark, and all you can see is my Christmas tree in the background.
Well, if the original light indicated an idea, the lack of light now indicates a complete lack of thought.
It's still light out here.
Is it pitch black there?
It's not pitch black, but it's like pretty dark. Like,
wow.
There's still a little bit of light. Like, the sun has set, and now it's like those last moments.
Like, it's still light out.
Because we're just that much farther east.
Yeah, no kidding.
In New Jersey.
All right, guys. Well, I found myself in the interesting position of defending Saratoga, but it's kind of been bugging me. Like, what actually is the problem with Saratoga? So thank you for humoring me and having the discussion.
Well, and I just want to say, this is a conversation that I'm having because you brought it up, but like, I would never like talk down on Saratoga. Like, being asked, why is it one that I would scroll past? Those are the reasons why, but I'm staying there for 2 nights in May and I'm really looking forward to it. So, I can say why it's not at the top of my list, but it's not so bad that I would be like, I would never stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Call it the Saratoga paradox. All right, guys. Well, thank you as always for listening. If you could head over to Apple Podcasts, give us a like, a 5-star review, we would appreciate it. Amy?
And if you don't already belong to our Facebook group, you can find us there at DVC Clubhouse. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And until next time, we'll DVC you real soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Oh, no, please, can't we go back to page 1 and do it all over again?
Started this thing together, and that's how we'll finish it.
Because that, my friends, is where the magic lives.
Happily